Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw on AI Pro, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their reaction to Brentford 3, Liverpool 1 in the Premier League from the G-Tech Community Stadium are Dave Hendrick and Hari Sethi. I mean, there's only one way to sum that up. It was a shit show, Dave, on so many levels. Very hard to come on a show like this immediately afterwards and flail around and try and look for the positivity that most people will be really, really clinging on to and hoping for from us. We will try our best, but let's be calling a spade from the start. That was nowhere near good enough on pretty much any level.
I'd like those people who are flailing around looking for positivity or, preaching their positivity to take all that positivity, put it in a box, douse it with petrol and set it on fire, because there's no positivity to take from a game like that, Trev. That was, with the exception of about 17 or 18 minutes at the first start of the second half, that was pathetic. It was pathetic. They were a shambles. Defensively, they were all over the place. In midfield, they were overrun. The two wide players were complete wastes of shirts, and the two boys stood up top might as well have just, gone off and played a game of chess and tried to recreate that messy Ronaldo picture that was going around before the World Cup. That was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And there's one man who is responsible for this, and it's Jurgen Klopp. And I know we're not allowed to criticize him because, he won the lot and all of this, but he has allowed this team to get old. He has allowed this team to get too comfortable. He has allowed this team to lose its edge. He has allowed an assistant manager to seemingly have far too much input on the pre-season and tactical approach, because there's nobody, and I mean nobody, who's watched that team this year that can suggest that's the same team coached the same way it has been for the last 6 years. There's no intensity. There's no desire. There's no fight. There's no fucking bollocks to them, Trev. There's no bollocks to that team. They're running around aimlessly, half-arsing into tackles, no positional discipline, no tactical discipline, no seeming tactical plan other than let's horse it into the box and hope that Darwin can get on the end of it, because that's all we did for the first half. And then the bizarre thing is, at the end of the game, when, we need to get the ball in the box to potentially, score a goal, Matip and Kanate are up front and we're pricking about, passing it side to side. That is a shambles of a performance. And it sits on the shoulders of Jurgen Klopp. He is responsible for this. And when you hear the bullshit he came out with in his most recent press conference, where he had a pop at fans who've been demanding action to go and sort that midfield out, to go and bring in players to refresh this squad, not just recently, last summer, the summer before. When he sits there and has a pop and says, well, part of my philosophy is that I want everybody to feel secure and I don't like to question them. He has allowed them to get too comfortable, too complacent, and frankly, too fucking lazy. So he needs to shape up, and some of them need to be shipped out really quickly. And if they're not, he can join them on the way out as well.
Bit of a tin ear from the manager with those comments. I mean, it's interesting. There's quite a loud majority who, are sort of toxically positive, if you know what I mean. I had this little walking scrotum come at me last night on the Bird app. and tried to tell me that I was only a whinger and a whiner and a big girl's blouse and several other choice things, because apparently he thought it was okay to join into a conversation I was having with a good lad on Twitter, where I was saying I was really disappointed that it looks like we weren't going to be doing any midfield business. And that we need not just one, but about three. That was the general tenor of the conversation. And for telling him and not bowing down like most people do, or running away exactly what he was, I got suspended for 24 hours on the Bird app. And I thought, wow, that's a perfect encapsulation of how absolutely mental some of the people who support our team are in the way that they perceive things. And Harry, to bring you in on this as a kind of a segue, I mean, I know you probably won't go quite as hard or two-footed as is the trademark of our esteemed colleague there onto the manager. Yet there's a lot of sense in that assessment from Dave, and there is a lot of sort of, like I say, almost trust stuff. Jurgen can do no wrong stuff, but we have to be able, don't we, to articulate frustrations and point to where we think maybe things are going awry. Surely that's acceptable in this day and age without idiots losing the run themselves.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Trev. I was just going to say, I mean, I've one positive that's come out of tonight is that dry January for me is now starting tomorrow, and thankfully the Christmas spirits weren't too far out of reach. So for tonight, I think very hard to disagree with anything I think Dave said, and I think actually you mentioned sort of maybe the vocal majority there or minority or whatever being sort of enthusiastic despite everything, relentlessly positive in the face of quite a lot of factual evidence at this stage. But I've seen a lot of people who I would class in the sensible lane, and as you mentioned, it's on the Bird app. The sensible lane does seem to get narrower and narrower with every month. But there's quite a few still in there who I looked at, and even they, over the past few months, because it's been obvious for a number of months now, at least, if not much longer than that, to ourselves who've been going through these games, week by week for so long, that Liverpool allow the engine of their team to rust. And although it's not the be all end all in terms of sort of the issues that we're seeing at the moment, it has pretty much destabilized everything around it in terms of the unit that and the group that we expected to see, and we have seen for so long, right? I think there's that side of it in terms of sort of players getting older, getting less effective, regardless of your opinions on individual players, getting older, getting less effective, and needing to be replaced, and there being no action in that area of the pitch for a team that prided itself on intensity. And given how we played in compressed space, you would think that the midfield was probably quite an important sort of part of that tactical approach. And then even sort of aside from the personnel issue, that I think is pretty obvious at this stage, as Dave mentioned, not just tonight's performance and sort of the way in which the team was set up and how unprepared I thought they looked at times, which is, again, you look at the manager on that, but I think quite clear attempts to tweak the way in which we played to perhaps make up for some of the deficiencies or aging of some of these players. And the tweaking has gotten more and more sort of reactive week in, week out, as you've seen these performances go in and a struggle against energetic sides and things like that, just well-organized sides at times, that actually at this stage, you are frequently seeing players get on the pitch for Liverpool and look confused as to sort of exactly what their job is, exactly what system they're supposed to be playing, where they're supposed to be positioned. And you're seeing people now actually look around at each other and perhaps start to throw blame at each other in a way in which you wouldn't have seen, I think, just about 6-7 months, 8 months ago, perhaps even. I thought the unit was still stronger then. So, unfortunately, for the start of a new year, there's a long list of issues that you could sort of focus in on. I'm hoping one of them gets addressed this month in terms of the midfield, but people are trying to do positive mental attitude and all that start of January, start of a new year. That's really not helped my mood.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch, and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much summed it all up there in that last sentence. It is very hard to, like I say, pick too many gems or jewels out of it. And you're right, Dave. There was a little bit of a tails up when Robbo and the lads came on, started the second half, and it looked encouraging. But I bring it back, and I just want to talk about this before we get into our usual format. I just bring it back and throw this one out there just for the sake of it. I mean, because again, people will be looking for reasons why this might have happened. If the, terminally incapable of finishing chances when we really need him to, Darwin Núñez finishes that one early on, and it goes in, and he does everything pretty much exactly right. It's just, the lad's there to clear it off the line. If that goes in, you know where I'm going with this, Dave. Is there a chance that it all goes differently, or are we looking at a thing that might have papered over cracks that are all too evident when we face adversity?
No, we're looking at something that would have papered over cracks. Look, we weren't particularly good against Aston Villa, but we got a win. And we got a win largely because they missed a couple of really big chances, but they played through us really, really easily. We got a win against Leicester. We were absolutely shocking in that game. Absolutely shocking. And if Wood Face doesn't do two of the most bizarre things you'll see any player do this season, we lose that game. And we weren't any worse today than we were against Leicester. They're just a better team than Leicester. They're better coached, they're better organised, and they actually want to play for their manager, as opposed to Leicester, who just couldn't really be arsed anymore. So, no, we could have won today. We could have gotten back and gotten a draw, and it would have just papered over the cracks. This, as weird as it sounds, this might actually have been necessary to maybe wake some people up that things are not right with this team right now. They're just not. No, as I said earlier, nobody can look at this team and tell me that something isn't drastically wrong compared to what we saw last season. Last season, the Premier League, Trev, we dropped points in 10 games across 38. 8 draws, 2 defeats. This season, we've already dropped points in 9. In 17 games, 4 draws, 5 defeats. Take out the shitty title defence nonsense where we had no centre-backs because we left ourselves short of centre-backs, and look at the other 3 of the last 4 seasons. We lost 6 games in the league in those seasons, and 2 of them came after the restart when our players were largely drunk and had already won the title. It was already wrapped up. So in games that mattered, we actually lost 4 games in 3 seasons. And we've lost 5 games already this season in the league. And we got walloped away to Napoli. There's something not right. And we can point the fingers at individual players because I don't think other than Alisson, anybody can really hold their hand up and say they've been consistently good this season. But they also don't look well prepared. They don't look like they've been well coached. They don't look like they're well set up to go and do much of anything. The only times this season that Liverpool have looked like Liverpool were the Community Shield and the game against City at home. And even in that game, we went to a completely different tactical plan, but we were aggressive. We were intense. We were purposeful. We were disciplined. All of the things that were the trademarks of that unbelievable group that went and won a European Cup and finished second on 97 points, then took 99 points the next year and went on that amazing run where they basically had the league wrapped up in like February. We were singing we're going to win the league in December because it was clear we were winning the league in December. Like a month before we are now, that season we were singing we're going to win the league. And now, like, we just look lost. We look completely lost. And what's most infuriating about it is Spurs are shit. United are shit. Newcastle are overperforming. They're not going to sustain this. City look levels below where they've been in previous years. There's Arsenal. And if we were playing at a normal Liverpool level, what we've come to expect under Klopp, if it was us and Arsenal sitting at the top of the league, even if they were 3 or 4 or 5 points clear, you'd still be looking at it and thinking 20 odd games to go. This is ours. We're walking away with this because they're going to stumble and we know how to sustain this, but we can't even find that level anymore.
Harry, I'm going to bring you in on this because that's a good segue point to have a look at the Liverpool team and talk about the bigger group in general. Dave talks about that group who maintain that ridiculously high level of performance, points taking, trophies, long runs in cups and so on and so forth. And we have to put a little bit of context and say that in the current situation there today, you have no Bobby Firmino, no Diogo Jota, and no Luis Diaz, and that is no small thing for any group, never mind ours. That is a little bit of context for us. The captain was out with a concussion. I don't understand what happened there, but apparently that's a thing. The group that we had today, the starting team, we had Ali and we had Trent and Tsimikas as fullbacks with Kanate and Van Dijk. Harvey Elliott in midfield again alongside Fabinho and Thiago, who I think would be two of most people's starting three. To be fair, Salah, Nunez and Ox, again, for some people, two of those would be starters in our front three anyway, depending on your preferences. But on the bench is where you start to see some of the creaks appearing in terms of the team, because whereas we were not looking too bad defensively, we don't have any outstanding proven attacker to bring on. There's Kelleher, there's Gomez, there's Keita, there's Jones, there's Robertson, Carvalho, Matip, Bajcetic and Phillips.
3 centre-backs is lovely to have on the bench, isn't it?
3 centre-backs on the bench. Interesting state of affairs, Harry, and what it speaks to, just to fully frame this, what it speaks to really is maybe a little bit of oversight in terms of maintaining the personnel in order to keep the performance levels as high as they have been. And that, again, I guess, is where you start side-eyeing maybe the management team.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to get into so much of a discussion about sort of the rights and wrongs about the sports science work that's going on at the club at the moment. Sai's spoken about that quite a bit in terms of it appears to be some worrying sort of trends developing around players being absent through particular types of injuries. And, we were pretty confident in the nutrition setup, the sport, and sort of the physical sides of sort of the Liverpool setup over the past few years, and given lots of praise for the consistency that we saw with players being able to play on a regular basis without a couple of exceptions. But yeah, it does appear to be an issue at the moment, and obviously having no left-sided attacker available, and Gakpo still not registered. Hopefully that's sorted out now promptly, despite sort of still being stunned that was the priority signing. That's one thing. I think you mentioned there sort of the kids on the bench. If you're being blunt about it as well, looking on the bench, Bajcetic, really exciting young prospect, should probably be nowhere near the first team. Carvalho, really exciting young prospect, should probably not be necessarily near the first team. Phillips, a defender that you presumably tried to sell in previous windows, and we know isn't good enough. despite being sort of a good lad or whatever. Gomez, not been great this season. Don't want to see him on the pitch necessarily too regularly. Kelleher, obviously love Kelleher. Nothing to be said there. Jones, young, unproven, probably should be going out on loan to get more experience. Keita, barely trusted, probably not going to be sort of actually brought on even if we need him. Was surprised to see him. Matip, good. Robbo, good. I mean, actually limiting yourself to very, very few options in multiple positions there. In terms of the actual selection itself, seeing Ox on the left-hand side, I guess not altogether surprising given the lack of options there and the fact that, Cody Gakpo wasn't registered in time. Nunez and Salah, happy to see those two again, of course. Thiago, Fabinho, always happy to see those two together generally. Elliott, I think the experiment has gone on for more than long enough now, actually, just to actually give you enough evidence that Harvey Elliott isn't a midfielder, and also I'm sure he is a promising young sort of attacker and winger based upon what we've seen of his past. He's never going to play there in this Liverpool team whilst Mo Salah lives and breathes and is wearing a red shirt. So I don't really see much of a future for him in midfield if we look to actually sort of try and shore up that unit. So that was a worrying selection for me, to be honest, ahead of the game. And I feared for him being targeted, that side being targeted, like we saw last time we went to Brentford. And lo and behold, that happened very, very early on. Konate, usually that fills us with confidence to see him back in the team. Unfortunately, appeared to be quite a bit rusty today and thrown back into a pretty intense atmosphere. Trent, Tsimikas, I can understand that decision as well. Van Dijk, Ali, just whatever bad word said about Alisson Becker. So decisions you can understand, weaknesses that worry you, and children involved far too regularly.
Can I come back to you in a second to talk about Brentford?
Yes.
Because they're very interesting, and I know you did a previous show. But Dave, there's one Liverpool question I want to ask you around this selection. If you want to say something else, of course, feel free. But then I'm going to start with you on Brentford. But the question that just came to my head and to my mind as I was listening to Harry go through the team there is, I mean, it does seem like a little bit of an inverted world where you've got a guy who was being touted as a potential wing back in Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who obviously played on the right, not being put in that 8 position where he can, use his pace, track runners, do that defensive work, get up and down the line, all those kind of things, and play a forward player who is a forward player in a forward position. Am I crazy?
No, not at all. I don't understand this obsession with trying to make Harvey Elliott something he's just not. Like, he just isn't a midfield player. And you're doing him a real disservice by playing him there. And I know a lot of people got really excited last year when he had those good 4 games before his ankle got wrecked. But if you go back and watch them, we were again playing more of a 4-4-2, and he was playing wider on the right, and Mo was playing more central, and Sadio was dropping out on the left, and it was basically a 4-4-2. The problem with Harvey is, there's clearly talent there, right? I'm not saying there's not, but there doesn't seem to be much of a footballing brain, now, which is normal considering he's 19, which means you really need to be giving him really strict instructions. And we spoke after Leicester about where the fault of the Leicester goal came from. And it was him pressing over in the left wing area, taking a shot, that started that whole thing, over on the left wing while playing right side of midfield. Did anyone see where he was for their second goal today? Over pressing on the left wing, leaving Trent 2v1 at the back post. And I saw some people criticise Ibu. Watch it back. It's actually 3v2, and Ibu has to mark the guy in front of him, which leaves Trent 2v1. But the player who should be there is Harvey Elliott, and he's not. He's 40 yards away on the other side of the pitch. If the lad is going to be in the team, he needs to be put in a really small tactical box, kind of like he was against Man City this year in the Premier League. when we played that 4-4-2 and he sat in front of Milner and he didn't fucking deviate from sitting in front of Milner. And anytime he got ideas about going somewhere, 2 and 3 people were roaring at him to get back. And nobody seemed to notice today that he's spending like ridiculous amounts of time on the left-hand side. I didn't understand it. We bought Ox to play that right-sided role. Think about when we bought Ox. The midfielders we had were Ox, Henderson, and Ginny, with Emre kind of as the fourth midfielder who was starting pretty much every week, but in different positions. And then Milner. That's the role Ox was bought to play, that right-sided role. Naby was bought to be the upgrade on the left side, and Ginny was to become sort of the fourth midfielder because Emre was leaving. And Fabinho was then brought in the following summer to play the 6, and Henderson, I assume the plan was Ox, Fabinho, Naby. Ginny and Henderson as sort of the depth players that can play all 3 roles, and now you've got 5 for 3 positions, and they're all mid to late 20s. That's a really good age. But obviously Ox's injury against Roma, he's never been the same, but he's never been given real opportunities since either. That's the first time since February 2020, the title-winning season, that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has started 3 games in a row. We're almost 3 years later. And he's been fit for large chunks of that. But he doesn't seem to have the manager's trust in midfield, which is bizarre. But yet, a 19-year-old who clearly can't play the role has his trust. And that's really strange to me.
And Dave, just to jump in there just for a second, because I mean, I think a lot of what you just said there about Ox in terms of sort of him being available but not trusted could be said for Keita as well. Yeah. I don't want to go into too many intangibles on this one, but you've spoken in the past as well about the fact that this is clearly not a meritocracy, and hasn't been for quite a while, and you've got senior midfielders being overlooked for a promising young kid. Again, that's another factor that seems to suggest to me that, I mean, you have to be in the world's best manager motivator, which maybe Klopp is, to avoid people getting annoyed about that after a long period of time.
Well, I would say look at the fact that despite having been offered a new contract, Naby Keita hasn't signed a new contract.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine he is probably quite annoyed. Look, Harvey, like I said, there is talent there. There's no doubt there's talent there. Number one, I don't believe he's good enough at this point in his career to play for a team that has real ambitions to win major honours on a week-to-week basis as a starter in any position. But he certainly can't play there in midfield for that team.
No, not as an 8. Let's have a look quickly at Brentford, because you'd have to say they were so well worth their win over the balance of this game. Could have been, 4 up at one point. And Dave, just to start with you on it, they're very impressive. Raya, I like him a lot. I think he's really good. Jorgensen, Pinnock, and me. They had Rorslev, Janelt, Norgard, Jensen, and Henry, and then Wissa and Mbuemo up top. And it's a very straightforward system. The 3 lads at the back, the wing backs, the lads working hard in midfield, certainly harder than ours were, and then the 2 threatening attackers. And of course, we must acknowledge that they started today without their biggest threat. I think a lad who's got somewhere around 50% of their Premier League goals, who's out of the running at the moment and may well be long term anyway because of what's going on in his own life. On their bench, they've got Strakoschka, Canos, Da Silva, Godos, Lewis Potter, Damsgaard, Beck, Sorensen, Kramer, and Trevitt, and we saw at least 4 of those, I think, in the end. What do you make of this group? And they appear to be quite high flying. They appear to be doing really well. They appear to have the ability to string it consistently over a season, and could. You by the looks of them on that showing tonight, they're comfortably top 10, I would have thought. Maybe I'm over-egging it, though. I mean, you've seen more of them than I do. What do you make of this setup under Thomas Frank?
I think he's an outstanding manager. I think he's got a lot of what would have attracted us to to Jurgen back in the day in terms of that energy, that exuberance, that ability to bring in players and, fit them into what he wants to do, to know exactly who he wants and what he wants, to get full buy-in from every player. Now, you're not saying Jurgen doesn't get that anymore, but, those are the things I think when FSG looked at Jurgen years ago when they first bought the club and thought, we're getting him at some point, no matter what, which is why they tried to get him when they sacked Roy. They tried to get him when they sacked Kenny, and then eventually obviously got him when they sacked Brendan. Thomas Frank, whether he's got Klopp's level as an elite manager, I don't know, but I do think he's very good. They're a good unit. Like, individually, they're not spectacular. Like you said, Raya has done really well for them since they've come up, and he's certainly progressing well from, where he was a few years ago. But you look at those individual defenders, Jurgensen, Pinnock and Mee. Jurgensen and Pinnock have no pace. And you'd normally look at two defenders like that and say, well, they'll struggle in a three because one of them will get dragged out into a wide area. But they don't commit themselves to wide areas. Those fullbacks work incredibly hard. Very similar to how ours Andy Robertson and Trent do. But they don't put as much into the going forward part, but they put it all into the defensive part. The midfield unit is really succinct, really close-knit, really tight, really hard-working, and all have a good technical level. Like, they're not just three grocks in there kicking lads. If you want to get into a kicking match, they'll kick the life out of you. But they can also get the ball down and play. Jensen's a good passer. Norgaard's a super intelligent player, and he's the one that kind of talks everyone through the game. He's just like, remember you used to watch Thomas Muller playing for Bayern, and you think, well, he's doing two or three lads thinking so they can just go and do running. Yeah. That's kind of what I see when Norgaard plays. But Jensen and Janholt are also both intelligent players. And they're a really strong group. And then without Tony up front, you've got the two burners, both of them. Like, when they turn on the jets, like, Brian and Bomo ran away from Virgil as if he wasn't Virgil. And obviously he goes off at halftime injured, but as soon as it happened, my first thought was, Virgil's got to be injured. But then you see him run away in the second half from Ibu, who's also quick. Then you see him keep pace with Ibu a couple of times. They're a really good unit. They're a really well-run club. They're one of those model clubs like Brighton where they do every little thing right. And like we used to when Edwards was running a really tight ship, they find those little marginal gains here and there. Like, they really take advantage of their set pieces. When was the last time you saw a Liverpool team with Virgil van Dijk in the team look so horrendous on set pieces? But look at the creativity of their movement from that little cluster at the back post. It's not the same run every time. There's 3 and 4 variations, and our lads couldn't figure it out. They were just going into their cluster and then going off in different areas. And, when you see the space that they're finding themselves in and the fact that we couldn't cope at all with their set pieces because they're really well drilled. When they beat West Ham, the 2 goals came from throw-ins. We haven't seen a Premier League team score goals from throw-ins regularly since Stoke. And this team, like, they're quite a direct team. They play a lot of long balls, but you'd never accuse them of being an agricultural long ball team because they can mix and match. They can play it short. They can draw you in. And it's a very quick ball backwards and the long ball over the top to the two sprinters, or when Tony's there up aimed at him. They're a really well coached, really well balanced team that are establishing themselves in the Premier League with no hint of imposter syndrome. We used to see teams come up into the league and they'd look like Norwich is the perfect example. Norwich always come up to the Premier League and like the first couple of weeks they'd almost give themselves away, like, we don't really belong here, lads. We're not quite sure how we ended up. We took a wrong turn. They walked into the Premier League and beat Arsenal on their first day, and they've continually beaten the top teams then at their stadium. And second season syndrome has hit a lot of those teams that had good first seasons, like Leeds and Sheffield United. And these lads are completely oblivious to it. They're just like, no, we belong in this division. We're good enough. You might have star names, but when you come to our place, we're good enough. And remember, they beat City away this season.
And that's the thing, Harry, the team ethic, the plan, the identity, for want of a better term, which is all features that we've been used to being able to rely on from a Jurgen Klopp team, very much present in that Brentford side. And just to give you a chance to speak about them, what is it that really takes your eye with them, like having spoken on your show in advance and heard about what it is that, you know, the fans have been looking at on a regular basis? They're impressive for all the reasons Dave mentions, but what is it particularly takes your eye about this lot?
Yes, that's what I was about to Taylor from their Besotted sort of podcast. And we've had Billy on in the past as well, and I think Dave's obviously covered a lot of the tactical nuances there, how they set up, how they approach things, sort of the personnel, the recruitment that goes on. I think the thing that came across the most from the conversation I had with Taylor, but also with the previous sort of Brentford fans that I've spoken with, is what's, I suppose, like what's very obvious over the TV as well, and that as you've said, right, that everybody is together. Everybody, I mean, the fans certainly really, this is a fairy tale for them in terms of sort of the journey that they've been on. And so there's this almost this freedom to the way in which they're approaching game in, game out. I think Taylor mentioned this one as a sort of a free hit, in the fans' sort of view, but not a free hit that they thought they weren't going to be competitive. And I think we've seen it in plenty of games against top sides this season and last season. They're more than competitive. And if there is a freedom about their fans and sort of the way in which they're enjoying this sort of ride, there's a methodical sort of nature about Thomas Frank and the coaching team, the recruitment team, and how they're approaching this. This is not sort of, just go out there and express yourselves, guys. There's a huge amount of thought put into the way in which they recruit, the way in which they set the side up, the way in which they look to be pragmatic and change things around to deal with the different teams and their strengths that they're coming up against week in, week out. And even down to sort of the clear attention that they put into set pieces that we saw frequently today. I thought there's a level of detail and preparation there that you can only help but admire as well. I mean, we come on this pod frequently and talk about sides that are using sort of state money and money from sort of various different sort of origins to sort of game the system, if you will. It doesn't appear as though Brentford are necessarily doing that, regardless of where that money has been made. But there's a huge lot to admire about the team. But the main thing that came across from all the conversations I've had is just what a good time everybody is having and how tightly knit they are.
God, you envy them that, don't you? Yeah. Very much been the story of our lives for the last while, and it's hard to see it fall away so spectacularly.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin De Vries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're going to split the first half into 2. And Harry, you and I are going to chat about a moment of joy for Thomas Frank's lot. We'll go up as far as the first goal or thereabouts. I'll do the balance of that first half with Dave then. Because we have gone long in the opening and we're going to have to go a little bit into another topic. So the match moments may have to get whittled down a bit or get gone through quicker, because there are there was at least one more topic raised by Dave earlier on in terms of a certain person and their influence being shouted about on Sky Sports by Jamie Carragher this evening in a way that's, going to raise a lot of eyebrows. So we should probably get to that before the end. That opening part of the first half, which we're going to build up to their goal, there is an early yellow for Jurgensen on Darwin Núñez in 6 minutes. There's a decent move, ended up with an overhead pass for us. Darwin has that opportunity on 7 minutes where he does well. It's a nice ball through by Mo Salah. He takes it, drifts to the left and dinks it back across towards goal. You're thinking, oh, he's finally done it, but Mee is there on the line to clear. There's a yellow card for Harvey Elliott, who goes in late to stop a counter attack on 8 minutes. Some good work covering and blocking across by Thiago on 12, who obviously has one eye on his defensive duties at all times in this current setup. 12 minutes, Janold has a shot, but it's straight at Ali. Wissa has an overhead effort on 15. But he was offside anyway. It was just a little bit of a worry because the ball was played into him and he was able to sort of like take his touch it up in the air and shape to do his overhead. And anyway, he was off. And then on 16 minutes, deep cross from the left side to the back post. Tsimikas did enough. Mbeumo got away from Virgil on the break, but Ali saved on 17 and on 18. On the back of those little bits of momentum and slight chances for them, they are ahead because from that Ali save, there's a corner, and from that they score. Sky were getting very excited about the way they pile bodies in there, like really making it seem as if it's just into the mixer and basically throw all your bodies in, as Dave said, agrarian tactics, Harry. But I mean, there's probably a lot more to it than that. And to be honest with you, it shouldn't really matter because it's a near post corner that should be cleared one way or the other. It goes off Ibu, who could be seen as unfortunate. It goes off his knee, shin, having taken a touch somewhere else, I think, on the way across. Alisson, absolutely heroic on the evening again, as always. Does his best to perform miracles, but he can only touch it onto the post and it goes in. They had certainly, after that opening few minutes, started to build their way into the game, and it felt, if not deserved, then hardly an unfair reflection of what was happening to date.
Yeah, it was a weird one for me because I actually thought that there were small periods of this game where I thought Liverpool played well. One was the start of the second half for a little bit of time. And actually, I thought on the whole that actually sort of started the game off fairly well in looking assured and looking like we'd sort of prepared for the game and what to expect, and putting together some nice moves in the attacking sense, and sort of you could see what we were trying to do, which is very initially, and then it just seemed to dissipate for a little bit once they went a bit more direct and tried to cause us problems. I mean, wasn't too threatened by any of the really early chances that you mentioned there, but I think the chance that people will be talking about, obviously that counter attack that led to the corner where we conceded. I suppose, we'll have to see what happens with Virgil on this injury that he supposedly has. You imagine he had that before the game, and then sort of said he was fit to play and then aggravated it a little bit. But I mean, I'm a little bit more forgiving of him in that situation, and I think some people sort of are using it to sort of say his ACL, he's done. He can't keep up with it, with the likes of sort of Mbeumo anymore. I think it's more sort of the bad body position that he has and the standing start that he actually approaches that from, whereas Mbeumo's obviously on the run, ball played into his path, full momentum, and Van Dijk's then trying to sort of put the afterburners on to catch up with him. Nevertheless, it's the sort of counter attack, it's the sort of chance in transition that we've seen so many teams use against us this season. It used to be our weapon, which is why it stings even more every time I see sort of teams do it to us. And then the goal itself, I'm going to lean on the side of yes, it obviously should be cleared at the near post, like we see, the majority of times, and I've gotten used to certainly with Van Dijk in the side. It should be cleared. I think that's quite unlucky, to be honest. I think for Ibra, I'm not willing to place too much blame on him in that situation. It should be cleared, and then the ricochet could go anywhere. It unfortunately goes into the goal for us. And then, it's sort of what we've seen throughout the season, right? Even with a promising start, even with good signs, the first sign of adversity, where we used to see this bunch group together, band together and get through it, this lot seem very vulnerable. Maybe they're sort of very aware of their own vulnerabilities.
Yeah, we tried to bounce back, Dave. 23 minutes, some decent pressure by Oxlade-Chamberlain. Good ball out to Tsimikas. He drove a low shot at goal, at least got on target, but it was saved. Corner from that, nothing came from it. 25 minutes, Jensen was on the break, hit one over, but it was a corner. And from that, their tactic of crowding the box worked yet again. Absolute clown cars, pinball scenario at the back for us. Ali doing heroics, makes a double save, I think, but it ends up in the net. However, it is disallowed because Wissa had stepped over our goal line and then back onto the pitch. So we got away on a technicality, if you ask me. An Ox long ranger is a real token effort on 32 minutes. A decent break from the same man on 33. And he's pulled back in front of Stuart Atwell, but nothing's given. And at this point, I'm kind of wondering why we keep just lobbing crosses at their 11-9 defenders. It's a strange tactic. A dangerous deep cross headed out for a corner by Tsimikas. Soon after that, about 38-39 minutes, but it was Tsimikas' shy pass that actually caused the danger in the first place. He plays a no-hoper of a crossfield ball, and it's towards Trent, but it's intercepted, and he has to make that defensive header. It goes out for a corner, and here we go. They go 2-0 up. This time it does stand. VAR goes and checks it again. Darren England, who is the man who's caused so much heartbreak for us in the past, disallows this one too. It's I think Wissa taking it down and volleying it home. It's a lovely finish, but it hits Ben Mee, who's in an offside position. They take a long time about it, but it's disallowed. Now, we should.
Can I just pause you there for a sec, Trev?
Yeah.
Right. So first things first. How much time did Johan Wissa have?
It's ridiculous.
How is he allowed to chest that ball down into about 6 yards of space?
Yeah.
But secondly, did you see how devastated Stuart Atwell was when he had to disallow that goal?
Gutted.
He was absolutely gutted. And I'm sorry, the first goal, it comes off Ben Mee's hand before it hits Ibu's knee. It comes off his hand. Now
it does.
They said on the broadcast, because it's an own goal, whatever. It comes off his hand, and nothing was made of it, but it's a little bit unfortunate for us. Now, it probably doesn't make any difference, and we deserve to lose. I'm not suggesting we don't, but it does come off his hand. It's not properly reviewed. He should have been sent to the screen to have a look at that, in my view. And then that second, that disallowed one, the second disallowed one, he's devastated that he has to disallow it. And he's nearly going and apologising to their players before he disallows it.
I'm sure Darren England was even more upset. But the good news for Stuart Little is that only another 3 minutes pass before he can have the joy of a Brentford goal, because we are undone by another deep cross from the right. And Wissa is there to head the ball into the ground and into the back of the net, despite more heroics by Ali trying to scoop it out, but it has crossed the line. Of course, again, it has to go to VAR to check, or whatever that technology is to check, and they're 2-0 up. And they absolutely deserve it. We had a token effort at a header from Tsimikas at the keeper on 44 minutes, but that's all that remains of the first half, and they absolutely deserve that 2-0 lead. And when you can't cope with players, and let me just throw this one at you. I know what would have happened if lads flooded up into a box when I was playing the game everyone would take someone because it's an unusual situation. So you don't do your zonal thing or whatever because this is now very weird. So everyone would just pick person each and you'd be responsible. You do man-to-man marking, try and win your header or your block or whatever. I don't think it should be that difficult. It shouldn't cause this kind of clown car scenario that it seemed to do each and every time.
No, I really don't understand. Like, I don't understand how badly prepared we seem to be in every circumstance right now. Like, I don't know what we're working on. I don't know what training's been done. But what I do know is that when we were successful, you couldn't score against us from a set piece. You just could not score against us from a set piece. And I remember we conceded one earlier this season. I can't for the life of me remember who scored it. And I remember asking, when was the last time we conceded a set piece with Virgil in the team? And it was Kai Havertz early last season for Chelsea at Anfield in the 2-2, in the 1-1, or when they had 10 men for the second half, when he flicked on that near post header into the back corner. And then I was trying to think, if you look at the title winning team, the title winning season, the season before, we didn't concede goals from set pieces. We were so well organised. We were super aggressive. And like, it wasn't just when we had Joel and Virgil. It was when Joe Gomez was in the team as well. And Joe's not great in the air. He's about average for a centre-back, maybe a little bit below. But we just seemed much more aggressive, much more competent at defending set pieces. And now, one of the things, Jamie Carragher is exactly right. Carragher has absolutely hit the nail on the head tonight with what he said about forgetting the Linders part of it, right? Because we don't know for certain what goes on. So a lot of the influence looks like it comes from Linders, but because it's similar to the team that he went and managed when he was away from the club. But Liverpool have gone from being a big, aggressive gang of bullies to this more technical, small, lightweight group who don't seem to have that real desire. And Carragher has compared it to Arsenal under Wenger. If we think of Arsenal under Wenger, you think of the first 10 years from when he took over to the Champions League final that they lost. And they were big, powerful, aggressive bullies. And they came into the league under him with like Vieira, Petit, then Gilberto Silva, Campbell, Kolo Toure. And they were athletic and they were just brilliant. And they were so powerful. And you felt like they could beat you as footballers, but if you wanted it to break into a fight, they'd beat you at that as well. And then the second part of the Wenger 20 years is more the Cesc Fabregas's, the Samir Nasri's, Thomas Rosicky. They're wonderful players, but they're not Arsene Wenger Arsenal players. And that's where they had no more success. They won a few FA Cups. But they went from being one of the elite teams in Europe to a team that celebrated getting fourth and winning FA Cups. And I've said it before, my fear is that that's where we end up, because Jurgen has this philosophy and it's all about groupthink and, you know, embracing people and making sure that everybody's, you know, kumbaya and all the rest of it. But that's not what got us to the dance. It's not how we climbed the mountain. And when we start conceding from set pieces, that's really, really concerning. And you do look at our team and think, you know, Thiago's great in the air for his height, but he's not a big fella. Harvey Elliott is tiny. We're small in that midfield, and with Fabinho's decline or whatever, he's a little bit less aggressive than he used to be. There's just something not right there, and the balance is off. We seem to have lost our talent identification as well.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting part that I want to bring Harry in on here, because we're doing this now, Harry. You might as well do this. Oddly, Jamie Carragher seems to be talking sense for once section of the show, and Dave's already mentioned the one about Pep Linders, which you had put in the chat there. I think it went something along the lines of I don't know if it's something to do with Pep Linders, who was a big influence. Look, if at best it's mischief. At worst, maybe he does actually have an ear of somebody, and he's hearing something that, we're not privy to. It's a little bit concerning regardless. Some people will see it as him throwing Pep under the bus and will rally the troops as a result. And look, whatever the truth happens to be, as Dave says.
That's not his MO, though. That's not what Carragher does. He doesn't throw people under the bus.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't tend to, except, and this is where I want to bring Harry in, he doesn't tend to, except he seems to have a little bit here, in that he says as well, Harry, Liverpool's transfer committee and Jurgen Klopp have been lauded more than any scouting network in world football, but this is on them. He says, one midfield player signed in 4.5 years. They're running on fumes. I mean, that sounds awfully familiar. That sounds like something we might have been saying and getting absolutely told we were whinging and crying and all the rest of it. So when, even Jamie Carragher is saying and speaking about the writing on the wall, it is a worry.
Yeah, no, and I think, we're agreeing with a lot of these quotes that we're sort of seeing appear this evening in the aftermath of that performance, and it's good. I think that sort of the wider media and sort of the mainstream coverage of these games sort of catches up to the issues. But I mean, part of me is definitely annoyed about it. I have to be honest, Trev, in terms of the fact that, yes, they're running on fumes. And yes, that's been obvious for over a year at this stage. It's been really obvious for a long time. And a really good example of why it's obvious and how obvious it is shown by how many teams set themselves up with that in mind week in, week out, and have done all this season. Yes, I'm seeing all sorts of quotes here around Liverpool need to spend about 200 million. Liverpool need to sign 3 midfielders. For me, which is as important as Bellingham, is a Wijnaldum type, also preaching to the choir. And then Neville jumped in as well with Liverpool need to keep Klopp and bring in new owners. They're the two biggest things for them. I mean, it's hard to disagree with the majority of those comments in the aftermath of that game. I think it's difficult to understand or sort of know how much truth there is around the Linders thing, but the points Dave is making and the ones that we can see week in, week out, this looks a long way from a Jurgen Klopp team. And of course, managers evolve, they adapt, they pick up new things as they go along and are working with different players. But this looks a very long way from a Jurgen Klopp team. And when the team does look at its best in now moments, about 20-minute spells this season, when they look to go back to their old approach and sort of building chances through intensity and pressing, but they can't sustain it for long periods of time, when they look better in those moments, you do have to question, okay, so why is the team not allowed to get to the stage where they can only sustain that for 20-minute spells?
Yeah. About 10 minutes for us to wrap up the second half, because it gets a bit depressing. We do have a go, as we said, Joel, Naby and Robbo coming on for Tsimikas, Harvey and Virgil, who has a knock of some sort. There is a chance straight away, 45 minutes, a dangerous Robbo cross. He was very good in that opening period where he came on, really brought the intensity to it. His cross was to Darwin, but was put out for a corner. 47 minutes, Darwin plays a lovely through ball to Darwin by Thiago. Darwin's finish is excellent, but it goes to VAR, and it turns out he's a smidge offside, because of course that's when he scores. It's the kid has no luck at the moment. It's you got to feel for him. On 49 minutes, Harry, and we'll pause briefly here before we take it another little bit. On 49 minutes, we are a goal back. It's Oxlade-Chamberlain. Fabinho plays the ball out to Trent, who cuts back onto his left and scoops in an in-swinging cross on his left foot, which Oxlade-Chamberlain's coming from left to right to nod home. And at that point, tails are up. And just briefly from you, what was the optimism level like at that point of the second half?
Yeah, it was reasonably high, just because I think that goal came sort of shortly after the Nunez disallowed one as well. So I was hopeful that maybe we'd be able to keep that intensity up for a little bit longer, maybe get another chance, and yeah, we'd hit them sort of quickly with two sort of quick fire goals. I mean, that quickly dissipated, obviously, but in terms of sort of just that little bit of action, Nunez, I mean, I think I actually stopped. I didn't talk about his chance in the first half, but yeah, the guy does absolutely everything correct there in terms of sort of you're making the run, timing that correctly, rounding the keeper, and is obviously sort of denied by Ben Mee. And this time as well, it's a wonderful finish as well. We're talking about him snatching things, being rash. That's, calmness personified in that chance. And just, of course, it's offside. So really did feel for him. And I think his confidence did seem to wane after that, actually, to be honest. But Ox, looked reasonably encouraging in patches. He's not the same player he was. Makes a nice run. Gets good connection on that header. Trent as well. At the start of the second half, seemed to use his left foot a couple of times, try and be a bit more sort of creative in that side of things. But I was still hopeful, Trev. I'd hoped that there'd been a massive shouting match at half time, and they were coming out to restore some pride. Yeah,
you know what? Because we want to just keep this to a reasonable length, and you're going to have you no doubt will have some bigger, wide ranging thoughts for the wrap up. I'm going to come back to you for your wrap up thoughts in a minute, and I'm going to just go through the rest of the half here with Dave, because honestly, after that goal, I've just noted that you could really see the difference that Andy Robertson had made. He had the captain's armband on. He seemed to be really taken seriously and doing well. Impetus, penetration, 54 minutes. There was a great turn and a carry from Fabinho. Then he has a dig at the end of it, well saved. Thiago then does well to stop a Wissa counter on 56 minutes. He has two digs himself 3 minutes later that ends up in the corner we get nothing from. Naby and Mo create some good pressure on 66, but nothing comes of it. Darwin in a good position on 69, but pulls a shot hopelessly wide from right to left in a way that we were all too familiar with in a recent match where he did the same thing about 4 times. Trent did very well with a back header to Ali on 70. Darwin picks up a yellow on 72. They bring on De Silva, Lewis Potter for Jensen and Norgard. There's one more sub there as well. Wissa went off as well. 74, Trent had a chance to shoot after some good work by Naby, but he got crowded out, and there was possibly an opportunity to pull the trigger on his left foot. 79, Mo has a shot for him. He's drifting in from the right, and he sort of pokes a shot with his left towards the near post. It goes out for a corner, and I'm just going to pause there and say that we're not seeing anywhere near enough from that lad at all, anywhere near. 8 minutes from that second corner, Ibu has a header across the face of goal, flashes it from right to left. That we bring on Curtis for Oxlade-Chamberlain on 82 minutes because Jurgen. On 83, we are 3-1 down, the game's over. It's in Buemo. It does go to VAR, and it's given. Ibu was under pressure, does get a bit of a shove, but Mbuemo overpowers him, gets in and finishes past Ali. And I'm just going to take it through the rest of the incidents there, Dave, and you can pick whatever the hell you want to talk about. at that point, when that goal goes in the second half, they had 27% of the ball, one shot at one goal. 86 minutes, they bring on Goddess and Canos for Mbuemo and Janelt, and then on 87, Naby hit Mo from point blank range in front of goal. It didn't really matter at that stage because we were 3-1 down. 6 minutes get added, much to everyone's chagrin. Ali had to do brilliantly on 93 with a cross from the right to stretch and get a hand to it. And then Trent had a shot cleared off the line by me, because that seems to be what me does. I'd love to have been able to dwell more on really, really creative play and fantastically incisive opportunities there, Dave, but I can't do it. Talk to me about that second half and your thoughts in general, and then we'll finish the show with you after I get Harry's wrap-ups.
I thought the three boys that came on at half-time all played fairly well. I thought Joel, with his ability to carry the ball, created real chaos in their kind of set half-field defence, where they had those two lines of five basically lined up in front of us. But with Joel able to beat the ball, or beat a line by carrying, and with Naby being able to drift through the lines with the ball at his feet as well, I thought we were really starting to open them up. And, it's not that long ago they went 2-0 up against Spurs at home and threw it away and ended up drawing 2-2. And they deserved the draw, but they very nearly lost the game when Kane hit the crossbar late on. And I thought, we can absolutely open these up. And we saw the Darwin chance. Unfortunately, he's a half yard offside. It's a brilliant finish, which, proves that he can finish. Then we get the goal. And you know what was really weird? Was we get the goal. Ox scores, what was that, 56 minutes or something like that? Or whatever time it was. Ox scores. And then it's almost like we froze him out of the game, because they seem to stop passing him the ball. And you would have thought, having gotten a goal, his confidence is going to be up, and maybe get him a bit more of the ball and see if he's, if he's willing to take them on and try and make something happen. We just stopped doing it. I thought Naby had a good half. Obviously came on, had some good dribbles, good 1-2s, created a couple of half chances. Set Trent up for a decent chance after decent work by Mo, but Trent didn't shoot first time because he didn't have his feet right. I've seen people criticise Naby for the third goal. He's trying to make something happen and he gets tackled because he's 2 or 3v1 in an area of the pitch with no support, because all of our lads are gone and standing in the penalty area. And we'd seemingly lost. After Darwin got hurt, got the yellow card. We kind of seemed to stop playing, and we didn't really seem to have any desire. And then they get that third goal. Now, Ibu should do a lot better. When he controls that ball with his head, he should actually just headed that ball either back to Alisson or just behind for a corner. He shouldn't be trying to control the ball there. He does get a little shove in the back, but his leg, as he runs, also catches the inside of Mbomo's leg. That part's not a foul. The push in the back is a foul, especially when you're that big and running that fast. Any kind of push is going to send you over. But it would have been soft in my view. And it would have been another excuse and another plaster over a crack. We deserved to lose today. And, it was good to see Robbo grab hold of everybody after that third goal and start screaming at them and telling them to up their effort and up the tempo. But then it never happened. And like I said earlier, we spent the whole first half throwing in crosses left, right and centre that nobody was going to get on the end of. And then from their third goal onwards, there's about 10 minutes. There's 10 minutes left. And we just kind of give up on putting the ball into the box. One of Matip and Ibu was in the box pretty much that entire last 10 minutes. And we weren't putting the ball in towards them. We weren't trying to create any sort of chaos in their penalty box or anything. And it was just really, really disappointing to see. And the whole performance was just, it was a shambles. There was a good 20 minutes or so to start the second half. But other than that, they didn't look like they cared, Trev. And that's what gets me. There's too many lads walking about getting by on reputation, phoning it in. As you said, we need to be getting a lot more out of Mo. We need to be getting a lot more out of Trent. I know he had a couple of decent games coming into this one, but we need to see more of that. Like, there was a moment in the game where it was the one where Tsimikas played that shite ball across, and Trent gets out muscled, and he sits on the floor and doesn't get up and chase back into position. He kind of sits on the floor, looks around, and then kind of gets up and ambles back. And by then the cross is coming in, and Tsimikas is 2v1 at the back post because everybody else had to shift across because Trent was sat on the floor. Like, there's massive changes needed. Like, we talk about the need in midfield all the time. There's bigger surgery needed to this squad than people want to accept. There's needs at centre-back in terms of depth. I think we need to be moving on Costas. I think he's a fine player, but I think you move him on, you get in someone new at left-back to push Robbo with a bit more hunger and a bit more desire and a bit more aggression. Costas was so weak in that first half. So weak. And, like, there's just, as I said, I thought Naby played well, but, like, Naby and Ox shouldn't be at the club. They're leaving in 6 months for free. We paid £86 million for the two of them, and they're going to leave for free. We're a club that, according to Jurgen Klopp, has to sell to buy. We collect the money. One of the ways we do that is selling players. And yet, here we are once again with two lads that easily could have been sold at any point over the last couple of years, and we wouldn't really have missed them all that much because he hasn't trusted them to play them regularly. And that money could have gone back into the team, and it just hasn't happened. And now we're staring at a summer because, by all accounts, well, according to Jurgen, it doesn't look like we're going to do anything more this window. So we spent our entire budget for the window when we needed a midfielder on a forward player, which maybe tells you that Diaz or Jota is going to be out for a bit longer than they've let on. We need 3 in midfield at least, and I'd argue we'd actually need 4 because there's 3 leaving. We need 2 already. With the current group, we need 2. You factor in 3 more leaving, I think we probably need 4 because Fabinho and Thiago are the only midfielders who'll be at the club next year that are good enough to play for this team. Henderson's finished. Jones hasn't shown he's good enough. Elliott's not a midfielder. Bacetic is a child. I mean, what's going to happen? Tyler Morton's going to come back off loan and that's going to be the answer? Like, do me a favour. Like, Joel and Joe, they've been pretty poor this season. I thought, like I said, Joel played well today, but he's been pretty poor this season. Should be moving him and Joe on. Bobby should be moving on. Kelleher might move on and there might be a need there. There's a need at backup left back. Could do with a grown-up backup right back because the kid we bought from Scotland seemingly needs quite a lot of work to get up to the level. It's not going to happen under these owners. They're not going to front the money. And we don't have the players to sell. And apparently it doesn't matter how well we do in Europe. We got to a Champions League final last summer and we ended up having almost a net profit in the summer. So, where's all the money going? Can someone point me in the direction of the massive amounts of money that we're making? It's not all going the wage bill before people say it is. It's just not. The wage bill, I'm sorry, if you believe we have the same level of wage bill as Man City, I have bridges and boats to sell you, all day long. Something is badly wrong at the club right now. And, when you see Edwards going, he gets replaced by Ward a year into his dream job that he's worked towards for a decade. Julian Ward is now leaving. Ian Graham, who's been absolutely vital to helping build everything that we see, he's gone. Mike Gordon, who was running the club day to day in the shadows, he's gone. Like, what's going to be left? Who's left? Who's making decisions now? Billy Hogan is the CEO, but he doesn't know anything about the football side of things by his own admission. That was Mike Gordon's overview, and Mike Gordon oversaw everything, but it was Gordon, Hogan and Edwards. Ward didn't get the same type of power that Edwards had, and now he's going anyway, and it's concerning. It is concerning, and it's looking it's looking at a situation where you're looking at this wonderful manager and you're worried, or I'm worried at least, not everybody is obviously, because some people are very positive, but I'm worried that we are going to turn him into Wenger, where he's going to be going out and embarrassing himself saying that fourth is a trophy in a couple of years, because that's where it got to with Wenger because of how thinly stretched he got and how much he was having to do. And I worry that that's going to happen with Klopp, that he's going to be spread far too thin. He's not going to have the funds. He's going to be playing substandard players, holding on to more players for years after they're useful. And then he's going to come out someday and say, oh, fourth is like winning a trophy, which is the single most embarrassing moment of Arsene Wenger's reign. And one of the things that turned Arsenal fans, Arsene Wenger's the greatest manager in Arsenal history, the greatest manager they've ever had. And think of how toxic it got between the fans and him in that last year. They were singing for him to go, holding up banners. The greatest manager in their history. That should never have happened. And you'd worry about it happening with us. Remember how great Rafa was, but Rafa got spread too thin, and there were large portions of the fan base that wanted Rafa out? Like, we've got to be giving this guy more support and more guidance and more of a strong hand. Jurgen doesn't work well when he's got total control. He said that when he arrived at the club. He needs a strong sporting director. Him and Zorc worked because Zorc reined him in and pushed him towards his strength and hid him from his own weaknesses. That's what we need right now.
It feels like you've pretty much done your sum up there as well. So I don't want to double down. Just remind people what's coming up from you for the week.
Two-footed every day from tomorrow. Daily Red is back, obviously, every day. There'll be a scouted, not for Wolves, but we'll do one on something else, and then we'll obviously be back for the next Premier League game. And yeah, there's a few other bits and bobs coming, but they're the main ones. Okay,
thanks, Dave. Harry, to finish with you and your overall thoughts on about it, it does feel as if there's a sort of something a bit askew on an existential level at the club. When you start picking it apart, the changes that have occurred, the personnel changes, as well as the cultural changes, the changes we're seeing on the field, not for the better, and the lack of changes amongst the actual playing staff where we need them. It does all feel a bit, like, as Dave said, that there's something very much awry, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I remember when Klopp was appointed, and I think one of my overarching feelings was relief in that there would be less focus on some of the issues that we'd ended up focusing on quite a lot by the end of Rodgers' time, around sort of dysfunctional elements of the club and things not working as they should, and some people after more power than they had, or more power than they should have, and things not working in lockstep. And that was one of the most enjoyable things about Klopp joining, beyond his own brilliance, has been everything working together so efficiently. And there are plenty of times that we spent talking about how well run the club was, and you fear that has changed. And again, I think when we're talking about Klopp and having increased power and Linders and things like that, obviously there's a degree to which we don't know exactly, but we're putting two and two together based on quite a lot of evidence at this stage. I find it hard to disagree with a lot of what Dave says around the concerns that there are at the club. The optimistic side of me would be that whilst it doesn't solve everything by any stretch of the imagination, if tonight does provide the impetus, along with some of those sort of pretty mainstream comments from Carragher there as well, on live TV about all the issues Liverpool have. If that does end up sort of helping us actually push through a signing this month for a midfielder, a first team midfielder, to get us start to edging closer towards looking like a Klopp side again, as opposed to this sort of technical hybrid that's a lot more vulnerable, that would be sort of an end of January that I would be quite happy about, to be honest, because I think that does not address all of our issues by any stretch, but begins to address some of them that we think are perhaps the heart of the issue in terms of sort of how structurally weak we look at times. So, yeah, I'm hoping there's a signing this month in midfield. I'm hoping that Gakpo can join our attack and help to paper over the cracks a little bit in the way in which I think the attack has been doing, to be honest, for a couple of seasons now. If we're honest, the brilliance of those attackers has often sort of made up for deficiencies in other part of the pitch. So, yeah, it's hard not to be disheartened by that. The first game of the new year, you're looking to try and not do the very predictable thing, and then you do the predictable thing and lose in very predictable fashion. It's very disappointing, Trev. But in terms of what's coming from me as well, there'll be a sort of rivalry cons back on a regular basis now ahead of each Premier League game, and the next one is obviously we have to wait a little bit of time because of the Wolves game in the FA Cup, but there'll be one ahead of our trip to Brighton, so that's going to be fun, no doubt. Obviously, going to face another well-run club who operate and look better than some of their parts.
It's okay. There'll be 200 million spent now because Jamie Carragher said so. It's all good. Yeah. As ever, thanks to Dave Hendrick and to Hari Sethi for the ever-present balance between passionate emotion and balanced insight. It's really the type of thing that makes this show, I think, the best at what it does, and I'm glad to be a part of it. We'll be back regardless of win, lose or draws. We always are for you on Raw after the next Reds outing, so do keep it here for that and keep an eye out for all the things the lads just mentioned they're part of. Always worth your eyes and ears when they're involved in something. I'm Trev Downey. That was Hari Sethi and Dave Hendrick. This is Raw, and we'll be back next time the Reds play.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.